what the invasion of the capital that happened here in the US, it happened exactly in the same way in Brazil. Right? Same thing. Right after the election, and I don't know if you guys know, but Brazil was under a very heavy dictatorship from 64 till 85. So somehow, and when the guys that invaded the Brazilian institutions, Brazil was really quick in like sending them to jail and looking for the people that financed or that helped that thing. It's not that Brazilian's institutions are stronger than America, quite the opposite. You're a younger democracy full of problems. But Brazilians know what an authoritarian regime is. It's really close. It happened like 50 years ago. You know, we know how bad that is, and we don't want that to happen again. And I think, if you allow me to say that, kind of echoing what Alex just said, I think Americans take democracy for granted, you know, and that's a very dangerous thing. I think journalism is a very important thing for democracy. And I'm a journalist. I graduated as a journalist, and I've played a journalist before. And especially, I think that especially in this polarized moment, you know, also with people like getting information from their own bubbles and getting informed through social media and all that, and all the fake news and all that. I think journalism is a crazy important institution for democracy. So I'm always, one of the things that make me really proud of having done this film is to portray, to play a journalist. And but we were doing, I can't reinforce that, like, more. War journalism is a completely different thing. And like Kirsten said, we have to have, every time I see an image or a video from a war zone, I go like, there's no reason, there's no explanation, in my opinion, no reason explains war. No reason explains the human cost of a war. And I think that the empathy that the work of journalists brings to us is essential, is fundamental.
There were people on all political positions, and all of them got the film and supported it and worked really hard, and we got on really well and had beers and just sort of enjoyed each other's company and respected each other. I personally, I attach some of this to social media. I think that there is an interaction that exists human to human, that somehow there is something dissonant happens and it floats away when it reaches a public forum. And actually this is exactly like the other thing. I think we all know that. I'm not making an insightful observation. Everybody is aware of that. Everybody's aware that the frenzy up here does not really speak for them. If it really did speak for them, okay, that might be one of the crazies. But broadly, amongst all people, 99.9% of people I interact with, it's not like that. So it's something to do with the way voices are amplified. It's something to do with the way voices are disseminated, and it's also to do with fear. It's to do with politicians being afraid of their electorate because their electorate no longer trusts them, and media organisations being afraid of their viewership or their readership because they don't want to lose them and they don't want to lose advertising revenue. And that is taking them away from the important part of their job, which is to be trusted, basically. Honestly, it's a nuanced question, nuanced answer, and I can't say what is right or wrong. You give it your best shot. You think about it as hard as you can and you give it your best shot. There's been an argument for a long time about news footage. If a terrible event happens, how much do you show of dead bodies, pieces of bodies? Does that make people refuse to accept the news because they don't want to access those images? Or worse, does it make them desensitized to those kinds of images? So it's a tricky balance to get right. In this particular case, one of the agendas was, if possible, to make an anti-war movie, something that was emphatically anti-war. I don't know if people will get this reference, but there's an old film called Triumph of the Will, which is essentially a pro-fascist movie, and I did not want to accidentally make Triumph of the Will by making a sort of a pro-Civil War movie, just by making war seem kind of glamorous and sort of fun, which is something movies can do quite easily. And I thought about it very hard, and in the end I thought being unblinking about some of the horrors of war was the correct thing to do. Now, whether I was correct or not in that, that's sort of not for me to judge, but I thought about it hard and came down on that side.
In America, talking to a lot of journalists, that they said it was the road to Basra in the first Gulf conflict. There was a point where, and it was when you get the movie embedded journalists
exactly.
more control.
Because this is the thing about journalism, there are some images, say, from the Vietnam War, very famously of an execution of a VC soldier and a young girl who'd been burned by napalm, and a young Buddhist monk who set himself on fire, that became reasons why journalism suddenly did have an effect and changed the public mood. So actually that's partly why photojournalists are at the heart of this. Often modern journalism of that sort is videoed rather than stills, but I was trying to do that throwback thing. Journalism can be fantastically powerful provided that it's being listened to. And one of the really interesting things about the state that your country is in and my country is in and many of the others, the debates, in a way the journalists are doing their job, right? The debates are all out there, the warnings are all out there. Everybody is aware of the warnings on both sides, all sides of the political divide. But for some reason, they don't get any traction. And where is the lack of traction? Why are the wheels spinning in the mud? And I thought to myself, is it the polarization? Is it just that we're not able to absorb information because of the position we already hold? Hence, taking a movie which pulls the polarization out of it, refuses to engage in that and tries to find points of agreement which are depoliticized for a political reason.